And welcome once again to Investor's Edge. Gary Kaltbaum, your host. Hey, thanks for being with us today. Glad you're here, ladies and gentlemen. Happy that you are listening. It would be Tuesday. It would be March 3rd, 2026. Winston is here, listening to me and looking at me. My man Winston. As you know, Winston is now almost 14. They gave him 6 months to live more than 3 years ago, said he had aggressive cancer, had surgery, took it out, came back, had one more, took it out, and then really aggressive, no more surgery, they couldn't do any more. That was 15 months ago. They gave him 3 months. It's 15 months later, and he's terrific. The only thing that has occurred, because he's very old, lost a lot of his hearing. But he is still as Winston as can be. My man, my shadow, hanging here. And if you hear any big bumps as we're doing the show, they're doing the roof. The roofers are here. 10 of them. Some of them much bigger than me, so I didn't want to ask them, we got a radio show. We'll just let it be. And if you hear some banging, hey, you got some banging with a radio show. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a show about everything that affects you. That's what we tell you. We do the markets, the economy, your job, your industry, all the Morlocks in D.C., the debt and the deficits, the scams, the corruption, the insider trading, and then the war. We'll come out of the box with that today. We're going to give you our thoughts, but let me be clear and let me be concise on that. We don't know what the hell is next, but we do have our ear to the ground, so we'll tell you what we think. There's one certain person on Fox News named Trey Yingst who should get every award given to mankind covering it. I'll tell you what he has to say. I don't know what his title is now. His title should be the man who is ducking bombs. But I believe he's the main foreign correspondent or something like that. I don't know how he does what he does. He wears bomb vests every time he's on TV. If you do not get this radio show in your city, we'll post it at GaryK.com. It'll also be on our X feed. If you don't follow us on X, you should. And of course, if you'd like to email us, just be nice. I had one guy come after me on Twitter, and I charmed him. But you can never argue with somebody who is neck deep, no matter what somebody does, says, and loves them, nothing you can say. So at one point in time, you go, tic-tac-toe, you can't win, don't play the game. Anyway, also we'll be on the BizTV YouTube channel. If I told you the Dow was down 403, the NASDAQ 232, the NASDAQ 100 272, and I told you it was a big win, and you weren't watching the market today, what would you think? Well, let me explain. The Dow at one time today was 47,626. 875 points worse. It was down 1,278 points at the lows. Right near the open, by the way. The Dow, let's see, hit the low at 1030. The NASDAQ, 292 points off the low. No, 392 points off the low. At one time today was down 630. So we'll call it a big win. Is that okay? Even though it was still down? It's a big win. And what happened today, I can take a 5-minute chart of the Dow and look at it right now, and then look at oil prices, and I will see oil prices topped at 1030. I will see the Dow bottomed at 10:30. Oil was very strong overnight. Things escalated. The president had come out and said weeks, if not more. But then early today, the president came out and said, we are kicking their capabilities in the ass. I'm paraphrasing. But taking out their capabilities, and we're doing great. And the market believed it. So, a very good comeback 2 days in a row, even though down pretty decently. What did not come back as much, but still did a decent amount, the semiconductors, the stocks was down a juicy 372, but was down 462. Didn't do as good, but good comeback. So, a few things of note. I have no clue what happens tomorrow. I don't have a clue what happens the next day. What we'll do is keep a very close watch. Before today, the major indices have been in a 4-month plus tight trading range, a little bit below resistance. The mid caps on the verge of breaking out again. Got hit pretty hard today. Why would that be? They're less liquid. The small caps got hit pretty good today also. They're not as strong as the mid caps. What else happened today? Gold got hit for a 4.5%. Silver got hit for 8.4%. So wild swings there. As we have said to you, gold is stronger than silver. Not a fan of silver. We also said to you it would be very tough to take out the highs in the metals, and that's not happening. But the gold miners did. But the gold miners are down 8.5% today also. Why would that be? Well, in case you do not know, the dollar usually rallies during war. In case you didn't know. World markets that were doing very well got hit hard. Gap down overnight. The strongest world market, South Korea. Down 10% at the close today. At the open, down 18%. By the way, they're really on the roof now. Was there anything that stood out today on the good side? There was. Software. We have been telling you that software kind of, sort of, better relative strength near term in its bear market. Software has had a huge drop, but in recent days, holding up pretty well. And if you want to know what we mean by near-term relative strength, at 10:30 today, the NASDAQ was still down 450. The software ETF went positive. Microsoft went positive. Salesforce.com went positive. And you know, we got this left screen of lesser tech software, all green. By the end of the day, even with the NASDAQ 100 down 272, Microsoft up 5, and even some of the worst software names that have been bludgeoned in recent months all had a good day. So we think maybe, we're not saying end of the bear market. We're saying near-term lows being put in on software, but obviously you're going to need the stock market to do the right thing. HUBS was up 11 today. Intuit 14. Workday 9. So there's a good day right there. I don't know if that lasts. They're in major downtrends, but we think we're identified at least some relative strength. Up next, a ton more to cover on Investor's Edge. Well, they are really banging over my head right now. You hear that? Hey, we do everything here. So we mentioned the software. Keep in mind they are not in uptrends. They're not even in flat bases. They have had big moves down. I think only 2 legs down, so there may be more to come. But just near term, you can just tell there's some relative strength. And when you have Microsoft, that is 40 points below the 50-day moving average, you can certainly fill some of that. And we'll see what happens tomorrow. You don't know. But definitively, near term, getting some relative strength. My screens are very red today, except, as I said, the lesser tech bombed out. Softwares and other tech have been hit. Where that stops, don't know. Just a better day there. Take your time right now and be careful. I saw 3 or 4 people today say, oh, you got to buy defense stocks. And I'm thinking to myself, Gary, let's take a look at the defense stocks. Lockheed Martin has already had a big, what we call, war move. Northrop Grumman has had a big war move. L3 Harris, a little less. And I'm thinking to myself, shouldn't they be saying, but if it ends, the war ends quickly, these things are going to get slaughtered? I take that back. Hit pretty good. Probably 10-15%. So be careful. And we're not saying they're not going higher, but we always have to think of the other side. Oils. Oil prices up markedly today. Why did oil stocks go down? It's because they've already had a good move, number one. Number two, they're stocks. And yet a bad stock day. And again, they've already had a really good move. Remember I told you, I saw Exxon with a beautiful breakout at 125, and I said, I'm not buying Exxon, a big oil. It topped out at 160 2 days ago. Go figure. Of course, it's had help. The Venezuela thing. Now this. What's next? Don't know. As far as the Iran thing and what I'm seeing, it's just my take. And none of this is put downs. None of this is ribs. I think they probably did not think that Iran had so much firepower. Thus this. Now, if the president is correct in saying today that they have really taken out their capabilities, that'd be huge. Because there would be a given point in time where they have to surrender. And you got to think we get closer to it on a daily basis. I have to tell you, I'm looking at video. They were lighting up the sky in Tel Aviv tonight. It is nighttime there. With ballistic missiles. Fortunately, they're being taken out high in the sky. Don't you love all that noise behind me? I don't know what's next. I'm hoping. I'm not going to say it is. Every next day is going to get us closer to ending this, and hopefully it's sooner rather than later. I believe 7 now, of our American soldiers have passed. I believe it happened in Kuwait. And I don't know if you saw the video that there was some friendly fire that took down a couple of our jets, but they were able to parachute out. And the video of citizens helping out those who parachuted out in Kuwait. Unbelievable video. Other things. Dollar strong, all the commodities got smoked today. I follow things like uranium hit hard, palladium hit gap down today, platinum gap down. For all they know, or we know, they gap up tomorrow. Just don't know. Just don't know. We are sitting in moving pieces time here, kids. And you just keep your fingers crossed that the people in power get it right. I think this was an eventuality. I was most impressed with the head of they call him Raising Cane. That's his nickname, Raising Cane. I think he's the Joint Chiefs. Really impressed with him. Very impressed with Marco Rubio. Very impressed, though I think he misstated some things. I don't think he was BSing. I think they covered it, but screw all that. Let's hope this ends. And I think a miscalculation on Iran's part is going after all these countries because they're all pissed. And I think, as I said yesterday, it's almost like they said, screw it. If we're going to go out, we're going to go out in a blaze and just try to knock them all. So, there's your story. I wish I can give you big words on what possibly happens next. Yesterday, we had a very good close to a bad open. We were down 800. NASDAQ finished up. And you're thinking, okay, technically, good. Overnight, we were down 1,200 by 10:30. Almost 13. Very good comeback. A couple of the banks were up at the close. We'll see what that means. I've yet to do my scans. The one area I'm not thrilled with is how the semiconductors closed. We'll address that tomorrow, see how that goes. All the bear areas remain bearish. The payroll companies, the housing and housing related, not all, but a lot of the retail, medical, all that crap. Up next, the travel part. This is the one only Investor's Edge. And welcome once again to Investor's Edge, the banging on the roof edition of Investor's Edge, with a bunch of coughing fits by your host. But we just stop the tape and rewind. Travel. We would avoid travel stocks. This is not hard to figure out. Airlines, cruise lines, hotels, for right now. Gaming's in its own whatever. They are, Booking Holdings, Expedia are pretty bearish. I wouldn't call the rest really bearish, but they have tucked in like frightened turtles, trading under moving averages now, and I would just avoid this second. Do they come back when this ends? Yes. But since we don't know when, we'll just hang. And it's not like they're hot movers where you miss them. So not sweating that too much. Just avoid. And may I state for the record, some of them got hit pretty hard, and some of them are just pretty darn weak. Still in earnings season. Well, we're out of earnings season, but there's still names. CrowdStrike's after the close, and it's software security. Been in a bear market. I've never been a fan of their inconsistent earnings. A good one, a bad one, a good one, a bad one, a not so good one, not so bad one. Stock's down $2 in the aftermarket. I would have liked to seen it. Well, and we'll see what happens overnight. After going from 566, it closed at 391. One would hope you'd have some decent reactions, but no. As of now, actually now down $4 in the aftermarket. Boy, these guys are banging overhead. Again, sometimes you just go with it, baby. Sometimes. The number one question we continue to get, amazingly, even though down 45 to 50, even though a lot of the other cryptos are down 70 and 80, they're not talked about, is Bitcoin. Even though we said to you in recent days that we thought maybe it's trying to carve something out. And what that simply means, it's had a huge drop already. The Bitcoin ETF IBIT has gone from almost 72 to 35, which is more than 50%. It's bounced up to almost 39. If the IBIT can move above 39.80, maybe get a leg up in an overall bear market. That's all I can tell you. And it still sickens me that some people out there are telling you 1.5 million. I said the other day, somebody was on TV, it's going to 1 million. Somebody was interviewed, just going to 1 million. And I'm thinking, boy, if I was the interviewer, you're saying something that's at 65,000 is going to 1 million. Yes. So you have every single dollar of your life in it. Oh, no. The guy wouldn't have been able to last the interview. And of course, the next question would be, well, who's going to buy it at $999,999.99? What else on these wild days? Do I have any edge? No. I don't. Because yesterday, on a technical basis, you would think, okay, great reversal, leaving the bar at the upper end. NASDAQ was up. At 10:30 today, NASDAQ was down 600. When you get in these type of environments, think a little bit less and just take your time. I have no clue what happens tomorrow. One can only hope. They can gap it down tomorrow. They can gap it up. What I'm still seeing, though, is it's still going on. What's his name, Witkoff, came out and said, Iran said they have 11 nuclear missiles. I don't know if that's Witkoff kind of throwing out an excuse of why they did this, but they don't have 11 nuclear missiles. We have the greatest intelligence and satellites in the world. We'd know it. Not so worried. What we do now tactically, let me tell you what I was doing all day. I wrote down my list. I wrote down where support levels were. I wrote down any outliers. In other words, we were writing down notes on software today. There's one name sticking out, but I'm going to wait because the market's been wacky, and it's something that's coming off the lows. That reported earnings this past week gapped up and has done nothing but accumulate. It was up 7 today, finished up 3.6% in a nauseating market environment. I didn't buy any. I'll let you know. Want to see some more cards come out of that deck. China remains dead. Complete avoid. Bearish, bear markets. Even Baidu announcing an artificial intelligence chip. Or was it Alibaba? Or maybe both. Both selling off badly. I mentioned earlier the foreign markets got roasted overnight. Why? A lot of them are over there. A lot of them are over there. Europe, the UK, the dude running the show there didn't even want us to land some of our stuff there. Our great brother. The guy is certainly no Churchill. Others, no problem. Bond market, not worried about it right now. 4.05%, no big deal. Gold and silver, as we said, got smoked today. And as we've been saying, gold much stronger than silver. And silver, I think, is pretty much in a void. It's been bouncing up, but you can just tell it's got some issues. I've been asked a ton on NVIDIA. I think it's in a void of any new money commitments. If you've owned it for a while, I guess it's a keeper. A break below 170 would scare the willies out of me. My overall worry going forward on all this AI is the circular financing, which is very simply, and how do I put it best? It's when companies are funding their own customers, who then use that capital to purchase the original company's products or services. I have a problem with that. It creates what they call a closed loop that boosts revenue, helps growth for both parties, but, as they say, raises the risk of artificial demand and asset bubbles. This is what worries me. And, of course, the numbers. Up next, the numbers. We'll start with Oracle. This is the one only Investor's Edge. So, as I mentioned, the numbers. Back in September, October, Oracle mentions, I think it was like $500 billion in backlog. Pretty sure that was the number. The stock went insane to the upside. And then did nothing and drifted. And we owned some stock and we sold it $303. Not knowing anything except we thought it was breaking down. And we had this wonder, how the hell is this thing breaking down with these numbers? And what we find out, it was all with this company OpenAI. But we also found out is OpenAI is not going to be able to do this because they needed funding. Oh, that's right. And since all we've heard is debt, 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 and more debt. So the stock, lower, 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 lower. This is such a huge worry. And I have to tell you, a bunch of fundamental analysts think I'm nuts. And even though we've had precedent going back to the late 90s of this circular financing, they say, no. Because these big companies have all this cash, but they're still using debt. And then there's this other part. And I said this on TV, and I got a bunch of emails, all, that made a lot of sense. When somebody says, well, we're spending, and by the way, this is a low number announced by some of these big companies. Oh, we're going to spend $100 billion. Interesting. Well, if your son or daughter opened up a lemonade stand and decided to sell glasses of lemonade for $1. For $1. What did it cost them? Well, would you hope it's less than $1? Right? Or what are you doing out there? Well, if somebody announces they're going to spend $100 billion, they should be making back $100 billion and one, at least. And I just take out my legal pad and start writing things down, and I don't understand how they're going to be able to do it. Where is the revenue going to come from? And if everybody is doing the same thing, you catching my drift? I'm pretty sure NVIDIA is not going up because so many others are getting into their act. And maybe they will kick everybody else's arses. But they're still going to get chopped a little bit. I think that is out there. It is also being reported in some cases that some people with their chips are unhappy with the strength and speed and are looking elsewhere or already went elsewhere. This is a fact. This is not something I made up. And of course, the analysts never report it. They ain't going to say anything bad. And I keep watching people saying, just own NVIDIA. I heard somebody say, this is like Walmart, you can own it for the next 50 years. And I'm thinking to myself, what? If NVIDIA breaks above 195, you will hear from us. If it breaks below 170, you will hear from us. If it continues to stay in that range, there's nothing to do. And yeah, we're surprised how tight it's been. You can draw a horizontal line on the stock price going back to last August, late July. It's still down $4 from last August, while the semiconductors have soared. So just letting you know, we try to deal with reality here, and there's nothing wrong with saying what could go wrong. And since we have a pretty good memory, whoa, didn't we see this back in? And I can tell you, absolutely. And we are predicting nothing. We'll let the markets decide. But when we see massive amounts of numbers being professed and a ton of money being invested with companies that are buying the original company's products and booking it, something's up. And speaking of something's up, boy, they are working hard on the roof. By the way, I always say to you here, these are the workers. I got 10 guys, by the way, it's raining out, doing roofs on the office, sweating their you-know-what's off. That's America. Always respect everyone. I always told my sons, you better treat the guy cleaning the toilets of the building as well as the CEO, because if the toilets ain't working, you are SOL. Pun. The waitress, the waiter, the busboy cleans your table and dishes. You don't treat them well. The cooks. Do you know every time I'm in a restaurant and I get a good meal, I go to the kitchen. Every time. Just the little things, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, tomorrow's another day. Anything's possible. Hopefully we'll get past this sooner rather than later. Get back to some semblance of order. Have a great day. Drive carefully. When you get home, do like we do. Quite simply, make sure you hug your family and children. They will feel better. You'll feel better. I promise they will be well. I do believe we'll be on with Varney and Company, Fox Business tomorrow, 10 o'clock hour. Check it out. Have a great evening, everybody. And pray for our men and women in uniform. Bye-bye.